Hey everybody, welcome into another edition of To The Point. Hope you're all doing well. Apologies for yesterday. The first half an hour of the show, I did have a voice that did sound like Alvin and the Chipmunks. It might have been this mic. I've reconfigured it. Things should be better. And I apologize for that. It will not happen again. Might just be the mic on the fritz. Might need a new mic. Recently just bought one, but saving it for a later date, which more on that in the next month or so to come. But it is Wednesday, March 15th, hump day. We are one day away from the start of March Madness, even though, as I mentioned, every day this week, it technically started last night. Did I watch the two games last night? Yes, because I'm a hypocrite. Pitt is into the NCAA tournament. So is Texas A&M Corpus Christi. Mississippi State, Southern Miss, both are done. So a tough night for the state of Mississippi in general. Today on the show, I'm going to go into a deep dive on March Madness. I did a bracket last night. 90% of it's going to be wrong, just like everybody's bracket. I'm not Jay Billis. I don't pretend to be Jay Billis. I don't know everything there is to know about the world of college basketball. But I do know it. I followed it a ton over the last month. There's been some great hoops. I think it's going to be a really entertaining, interesting tournament. No defined great team. We got another two games tonight. Texas Southern against Fairleigh Dickinson. You also have Arizona State battling Nevada. I think it's going to be a fun tournament. Later on the show, I'm going to dive into everything when it comes to that tournament, who I have winning, different betting tips when it comes to just upsets. I got a number of them tomorrow. I got some big seeds winning games tomorrow. Ben Affleck, tune in. You're going to be happy. One of your teams that you like, you represent, is going to win tomorrow. Upset. Be prepared for that. Coming up shortly. But we have to start tonight, with just a sense of enlightenment, with a sense of pause. You know, ladies and gentlemen, today I was hanging out in the darkness. And I was thinking about life, and I was thinking about being and just the fabric of who I am. And about halfway through that darkness retreat, the darkness spell, I never thought I'd speak again. I was 90% sure. But as I was going through this different darkness, as I was going through this spiritual awakening, I decided, you know what? I will speak again, and I'll come on the podcast tonight and I'll speak to all of you. And in a surprise twist of fate, my buddy Aaron Rodgers, the best of us spiritual men, Aaron Rodgers went into his darkness retreat and he said there was a 90% chance that he would have retired when he entered that little hole just off the coast of Oregon. Beautiful crop of land, beautiful people, warm weather, home of the Ducks, close to the Portland Trailblazers. Just a beautiful place to live. But as he exited the Hobbit hole, he said, you know what? There's more to life. There's more to give to the sport of football. And I think my next location should not be in Green Bay, because it's dark there 23 hours a day, as I reported yesterday. Not a fact, but sort of a fact. I'm not meant to be in darkness anymore as I exit this cocoon, as I find this awakening. My next experience, my next life's adventure is in New York. It's a Jet. I have to play for the team that brought us Joe Namath, the original number 12. You could say it was Roger Staubach. But Joe Namath, the last number 12 to win a Super Bowl in New York. Oh, yeah, the only one. But he was doing this. And it's been so long since the 80s, since the Jets have been relevant. But my next calling is in the Mecca. It's with Julius Randle. It's with Patrick Kane. It's with Danny Dimes. I need to be New York. What a beautiful, beautiful sentiment. You know, some say I'm a dreamer, but I'm not the only one. John Lennon. And I believe in having dreams. I have a dream myself. I want to do this for a living, and I want to get paid to do it. So far, that dream has been a bupkis effort, but I'm not going to quit today. Don't plan on quitting tomorrow. We'll see if my dream comes true. Talked about the Oscars the other night and seeing so many people overcome hurdles to eventually accomplish their dream, to get into the business and everything that they did. They didn't give up. But that's a dream to me. A dream is something that you look towards, something that you can control. For Aaron Rodgers, this awakening, this spiritual being, this light flashing on the New York Jets, I'm sorry, but I'm not buying it. I'm not buying it, okay? There's bullshit and there's reality to me. That's just how I see life. It's one or the other. Here's the deal, folks. Aaron Rodgers wanted to become a Jet because it was the best option after the Green Bay Packers told him, "We don't want you anymore." Green Bay would rather ride with Jordan Love, would rather ride with him at quarterback. They don't want Aaron Rodgers anymore. They're sick of him. And any narrative that says that Aaron Rodgers just woke up and decided that he wanted to become a Jet is just simply not true. The Jets provide a great opportunity for Aaron Rodgers. They got a great roster. They're in the AFC, which is not exactly ideal, but they provide a lot of opportunity, certainly. But that's just it's a farce. It's wrong to say I just wanted to become a Jet. No, you wanted to make $60 million, which he will this year, in all likelihood as a Jet. And you wanted to still play, but you can't do it in Green Bay because they didn't want you anymore. And that's just the straight truth. The Jets will take anyone. The Jets love Aaron Rodgers because they need a good quarterback. They need somebody to play good quarterback for them. Plain and simple. They haven't had a quarterback in a long time. It's not about, okay, we need Aaron. Or they need anybody to show up and play for them. Just point blank. And it happened. But to think, oh yeah, okay, I just want to become a Jet? No. You wanted to keep playing. You couldn't do it in Green Bay. The Jets were the next best option. And who else is knocking at the door? Nobody. Aaron Rodgers informed Pat McAfee today in his program this afternoon with over 500,000 people watching the show. Congratulations to Pat, who makes $30 million a year. I mean, what he's doing is incredible. Good for Pat McAfee. He works hard. Aaron Rodgers said he intends to play for the Jets next season. So he's not traded to the Jets yet. He said the Packers are waiting on compensation. They're still working out a deal. I'm interested to see what the Packers get in return. But Aaron Rodgers will be the starting quarterback for the New York Jets come next fall. I'm happy this saga is over. Trey Ringo reported last Friday that the deal was essentially done, that Aaron Rodgers was going to be a Jet, and Aaron Rodgers basically confirmed that today. That he decided he was going to be a Jet last Friday when Woody Johnson, the owner, and the Jets brass went out to meet Aaron. He denied today that he had a wish list of players that he wanted brought to New York with him. I don't believe him. I don't believe that. I think I don't think he likes that it looks like he's a demanding person, like he's telling you you're going to have these players on this team. That's what I believe. I believe he said to the Jets, have these players on the roster when I get here. And whether that's telling them to put them on the roster or not, that to me, it's him saying, yes, have these players on the team, I'll come. He's demanding, and it's a Jets organization that's weak, so they'll do what he says. It's pretty simplistic to me. So I don't believe that when it comes to me. Aaron is interesting, of course, and he likes to be at the forefront of things. But we also know Aaron Rodgers is a liar. He lied when he told everybody he was vaccinated. He was not. This isn't me saying to get vaccinated or not to get vaccinated. It's just again, it's telling the truth or it's not telling the truth. If you didn't get vaccinated, just say you didn't do it. He told people he got vaccinated, then got COVID, and then figured, oh, no, wait, you're not vaccinated. So it's a lie. So there's a lie there. He's lied in the past about things he's done in the offseason. I think he does stuff to get more and more attention. So I think Jets fans, I don't mean to throw a wet blanket on your day, but I'm going to. Not because it's the Jets, but because with today's move, and even if you get Allen Lazard, and if old man Randall Cobb follows Aaron Rodgers to the Jets, and if Mercedes Lewis, who's 39 years old, follows Aaron Rodgers to the Jets, you are still maybe the third best team in your division. You might be the third best team in your division. Because the Bills are better. Yes, the Bills have lost Tremaine Edmonds, but the Bills brought back Matt Milano, an all-pro linebacker. They re-signed Jordan Poyer. Micah Hyde's going to return from injury. New defensive coordinator, better scheme. Josh Allen still there. Stephon Diggs, Gabe Davis, Dawson Knox. Haven't lost an offensive lineman in free agency. Josh Allen's better than Aaron Rodgers. He was last year. Aaron Rodgers is older. To me, Buffalo is still better than the New York Jets. I love Sauce. I love Aaron's a great quarterback. Corey Davis, Allen Lazard, Elijah Moore. Breece Hall's certainly a game changer. I think Aaron's going to love him, especially throwing to him out of the backfield. Let's go to the Dolphins. If Tua stays healthy for an entire season, I believe the Dolphins are better than the Jets. Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, Gesicki, Raheem Mostert, and Jeff Wilson Jr. paired at running back. They brought them both back. Terron Armstead at left tackle. Vic Fangio, new defensive coordinator. Jalen Ramsey, Xavier Howard at the corner positions. Javon Holland, my boy, Canadian safety. You got Bradley Chubb rushing the passer with Jalen Phillips, the U. Miami is a really good team. So are the Jets are very good. But what we're talking about here is the AFC is not the NFC. And with Aaron at quarterback, the most important position in the sport, Green Bay missed the playoffs last year. Period. End of story. Not a debate. Not okay, what if? You lost to the Lions in the last game of the season and you missed the playoffs. And he threw more interceptions last year than he had in the previous 5 years. Now, is that an anomaly or is that regression? Is he going to be motivated to be better in New York? I don't know. He's such a weird, mercurial guy that he doesn't give me Brady vibes where he wants to go tear up the league. Also in the AFC, you got Patrick Mahomes. He's pretty good. last time I heard. Best player in football, Kansas City Chiefs, 7 straight division titles, 5 straight AFC championship games. I don't know. Probably pretty good. Probably still going to be good next year, maybe. Denver. There are teams that miss the playoffs every year that make it the next year. Denver could be, maybe Russell finds with Sean Payton. They're spending money, fixing that offensive line. Javonte Williams will be back at running back after he blew his knee up last year. Cortland Sutton will be back healthy. Denver will be competitive, certainly. Chargers. Herbert. Not a bad player. New offensive coordinator in Kellen Moore. Should have a new head coach. Nevertheless, he's still kicking around. AFC South, you got the Jags. Jags are better than the Jets. Still, my Jags. I'm not giving up the Jags. Trevor Lawrence, the Prince, my guy. Great hair. That team down there. I'm not giving up the Jags for the Jets. Pardon me. So, the reason you trade for Aaron Rodgers is the only reason is to win a Super Bowl. Period. The Jets want to win a Super Bowl. It's not to be competitive. It's not so people in New York can feel some sort of accomplishment with being a Jets fan because you've had no reason to be for the last 20 years. Being competitive with Aaron Rodgers for 2 years, what is that? You were competitive with Zach Wilson. You're competitive with Mike White. So anything but a Super Bowl is a disappointment for the New York Jets. Anything but. And it's extremely hard to win one. Extremely. In a crowded AFC. The Jets aren't going to win a Super Bowl with Aaron Rodgers. So I already view this trade as a fail. You're trying to win. I get it. Way to go. You're trying to win, and I suppose I can give you credit for that. Because I do like when teams try to win. But I don't like when you just give a prima donna whatever he wants. I don't like just saying, okay, Aaron, sure, you can have this. Sure, Aaron, we'll do that for you. You know what? Yeah, come to the Jets. We'll get all your buddies. The Jets were building a really good team. I'll tell you this. If I was the Jets, I would have signed Lamar Jackson before trading for Aaron Rodgers. That would be my plan. Gives you a better chance to win. And he takes a quarterback out of the AFC. Another thought. Weakens Baltimore in the AFC North. I forgot to even throw Cincinnati into that mix of teams you have to get by. The Jets. Where's Lamar going to go? Is he back in Baltimore? Is he sitting out there? I don't know. Stupid Baltimore. You're not beating Kansas City. You're not beating Buffalo. If Tua's healthy, you're not beating the Dolphins. You're not beating Joey B. Maybe you can beat the Chargers because I don't trust Brandon Staley as far as I can throw the nerd. He'll find a way to screw up every big game they're in next year. He'll be fired. What do they trade to Green Bay? It's reported that they do not want 2 first-round picks, which is what Detroit got for Matthew Stafford. Stafford was younger. Stafford just worked out a new contract. Aaron Rodgers under contract for 2 more years. The fact that Aaron's on the record saying, I'm going to be a Jet next year, I'd want 1 first-round pick. If I could get it. If I could get the Jets' first-round pick in this year's draft, if I'm Green Bay, I'd do it. Because Jordan Love has been in the league multiple years. Yes. 3. But at the same time, he's played very little snaps. So if you could get a good draft pick to get another offensive lineman, to get somebody to help him, I would do it because you have Jordan Love, Christian Watson, Robert Tonyan, Aaron Jones. You still have a decent offense in Green Bay. Your defense could use some work. It struggled last year. Should have been better, quite frankly. But you have some good skill position players. And now you need to help out your young quarterback. The Packers could win the NFC North with Jordan Love at quarterback. I've seen very little of him, but you know who else is in the NFC North? The Lions, who I like the Lions. Don't get me wrong, I like their team a lot. Dan Campbell, good coach. But when have the Lions prevailed? They had a great season. They didn't make the playoffs last year. That's Lions for you. They're same as the Jets. 9-8 is a winning season. That's the best season you're ever going to get if you're a Lions fan. The Bears spending a lot of money in free agency. I like the fact that they kept Justin Fields. I think they got a bright future in Chicago. DJ Moore. They got the 9th pick in the draft. But can they get so much better that they can compete for a division title? Unlikely. Then there's Minnesota. They won the division last year. Kirk D. Cousins will be back. Kevin O'Connell, second year as a head coach. You went 13-4. You won't be 13-4 again because it's the NFL. Adam Thielen's gone. Eric Kendricks is gone. Your defensive coordinator was fired. I still think they'll be a good team. You got Justin Jefferson. You have Kirk D. Cousins. Do you end up trading Dalvin Cook? That's a big question mark. Who knows? But I think Green Bay can compete for the division. I bet they'll have good. They won't be the favorite to do it, but it'd be worth a bet certainly. Watch Jordan Love the first few weeks, see how he plays. He'll be motivated because he'll be going into a 5th-year option season, and Green Bay will have a decision to make on his future with the team. So he'll be motivated to play well. What all this is the Lamar Jackson, Aaron Rodgers going with Jordan Love. It's decisions. It's organizations making decisions on their future. Miami, franchise tagging Tua Tagovailoa. Giving the 5th-year option to Tua. Daniel Jones getting a long-term extension. These are all organizations making decisions on the long-term future of their teams. Looking at their situation and evaluating it. For Green Bay, they clearly felt one of two things. We are either tired of Aaron's bullshit and we just want to move on, or we feel that Jordan can play as good at football as Aaron Rodgers right now. Aaron's 39. He's been here forever. Jordan Love can play just as good as Aaron can in Matt LaFleur's system. The Jets look at their situation. They say, we picked Zach Wilson 2nd overall. He's been terrible. We can't have him as our starting quarterback next year. We can't do that to our fan base. People are going to riot in the streets. Mike White's gone. We have nothing at the quarterback position. We are not going to go in the draft again because clearly we can't draft any quarterbacks. We have no confidence in our ability to find somebody. So you know what? Let's just take a proven commodity. Let's trade for Aaron Rodgers. Not the worst decision in the world, but again, it's a 39-year-old quarterback and you're entering a very tough AFC. They're all decisions. The Jets have made theirs. I disagree with it. I don't think it'll work in the end. I don't think Aaron Rodgers is going to win a 2nd Super Bowl in his career. I wish him all the best. I'm happy this saga is over because I'm sick of talking about it. But hey, Aaron Rodgers and the New York Jet. Congratulations to the Beers household, Adam and Melissa. Adam, a friend of the podcast, a Lions fan, but Melissa, obviously a Jets fan. So celebration tonight. Aaron Rodgers is a Jet. Not sure if either of them like darkness retreats, but I think Melissa should have to go on one just to show camaraderie and just show her support to Aaron. I think every Jets fan should have to go on that retreat. Just make that decision to find that inner you, to find that passion, to find your inner being. Just find it out of you. Is Aaron going to work with those receivers in OTAs in this spring, summer? Who knows? I know he's speaking at a psychedelic conference in May or June, I believe. So ayahuasca lovers everywhere can ignite and reunite. Good for Aaron. Smoke up. Let's move to the Dallas Cowboys, who have made some news over the last 48 hours. The Cowboys first have re-signed their longtime linebacker, a first-round pick multiple years ago, Leighton Vander Esch, to a 2-year deal. Vander Esch is very much in the box linebacker, very good in coverage, can tackle, and he's been a Cowboy for a very long time, so they decide to bring him back. So Leighton Vander Esch goes to Dallas. After that, they announced that they had traded for corner Stephon Gilmore from the Colts. The Colts will get a 2023 fifth-round selection. So this Stephon Gilmore will now pair with Trayvon Diggs. So two pretty solid corners. You have Trayvon, who's a corner who likes to gamble, who likes to come up with interceptions, who had a bad year last year, and he would admit that. And Stephon Gilmore is very much a lockdown corner, a Darrelle Revis type corner. He's physical, he gets in your face, and that's the way he plays the position. I don't mind this deal for Dallas. They needed another corner. They needed somebody with experience that you can trust. Dan Quinn is back as defensive coordinator. You still got Micah Parsons. You have Vander Esch. You re-signed Donovan Wilson. Trayvon Diggs is still present. DeMarcus Lawrence is still there. You have my guy Dorrance Armstrong. The strength of the Dallas Cowboys is their defense. And by adding Stephon Gilmore, they are adding to their strength. Now for the Cowboys, I think they need to get a number 2 wide receiver. You have CeeDee Lamb, he's great. Michael Gallup was not the same receiver after coming off his torn ACL. And you really had nobody else. James Washington got hurt. He never got to play as a Cowboy, so that didn't work out for you. T.Y. Hilton is not a number 2 receiver anymore. It's more of a gadget slot receiver. I think his NFL career is likely over. So does Dallas go out there and splurge on Odell Beckham Jr.? Reportedly, Odell wants $20 million a year. It's not a huge... It's no surprise why he hasn't been signed yet. It's because he wants too much money. He's a guy that's torn his ACL twice. He's an uber talent. He's proven that he can be a team player. He won a Super Bowl in Los Angeles. I think many teams would love to have him. But not many teams with the salary cap and the way it is can afford him. And nobody's paying him $20 million. I think the more likely contract for Odell Beckham Jr. is $10 million salary plus incentives. That might be what you're looking at. If I'm a team, I'm not giving him guaranteed money. I'll give him half of what he wants and the other with incentives, in games played, in receptions, touchdowns, all that fun jazz. I think he'd be great in Dallas. I think Dallas has 2 different decisions. I think they're going to get one of these guys. I think the Cowboys are either going to get Odell Beckham Jr. and pay him the money because Jerry will get impulsive and he wants to win before he dies, as he always keeps saying. Or they'll trade for DeAndre Hopkins. DeAndre Hopkins, as we speak, is still an Arizona Cardinal. But Arizona's a mess. I don't know what the hell they're doing. They didn't sign a quarterback that I thought they were going to today as insurance. So Arizona's got a new coach who didn't want to be their coach. Who the hell knows what's going on in in Arizona. But DeAndre Hopkins wants out. He will likely be traded. I could very well see him in Dallas. I could see him in New England as well. But I do think Dallas needs another receiver. So who knows? But I like the Stephon Gilmore ad for the Cowboys. Keeping Van Der Esch is not bad either. And they made some big news today. We expected this to happen, but it's still big news just because of the ripple effect that it leaves on the team. The Cowboys released Ezekiel Elliott today, the longtime running back who had been on the team since 2016, 7 years as a Cowboy, multiple time All Pro, was a Rookie of the Year, Offensive Rookie of the Year in 2016, was coming out of Ohio State where they won the national championship, was so good in his rookies, went through his problems with the law, different things, but he was a great Cowboy. But he carried the ball a ton, he took his hits, and like every great running back, eventually your body wears down. And Dallas gave Tony Pollard the franchise tag for $10.1 million. By cutting Zeke Elliott today, they will save $10 million in salary. So basically, cutting Zeke allows him to keep Tony Pollard, who did break his leg, so who knows how good he'll be. I think Dallas is going to look to the draft to get another running back. I could see them taking a swing on Bijan Robinson out of Texas, but we'll talk about that more as we get closer to draft season late next month. You know, this is the smart move, certainly, because Ezekiel Elliott was not giving you any good production anymore. He was a red zone back where you gave him the ball inside the 5-yard line, he'd score a touchdown. But he was averaging 2.3 yards a carry. He didn't have any bursts. He couldn't break out of tackles. And I just think emotionally, Dax only played with Zeke as a starting running back. The team knows, I think this hurt Jerry Jones to see this happen. He loves Ezekiel Elliott. The team does as well. So I think it's an emotional thing just because of what he meant for the team. When it comes to his play, this absolutely made all the sense in the world. Because he just couldn't do it anymore. He's not a good NFL player anymore, and you couldn't justify paying him that money and keeping him on the roster. For Zeke, he's not going to get big money wherever he goes. I don't think a whole lot of teams are going to want him around the league. I'm sure there's some interest, but he's made good money. If I'm Zeke, honestly, he may want to be competitive and keep playing football, and I get that. That's what athletes do. If I'm Zeke, I retire. You obviously didn't win a Super Bowl, but you won the national championship. You were one of the best Cowboys running backs in history, truly. Emmitt Smith obviously will still be number one, but you look at Zeke's numbers and how productive he was, he's truly an all-time Cowboys great. Jerry will likely put you in the Ring of Honor. Why go to the Bills and make little money to rush and play such a little role on that team? Why go somewhere and be a backup running back? You were always a starter, go out a starter. He may still have that fire burning in him, but you're not going to be paid all that much because you're a running back, and you're just not the same player you used to be. And I think he's got a pretty big enough ego that he doesn't want to be a backup for the rest of his career. He's got a little Allen Iverson in him. Doesn't want to come off the bench. Staying in the NFC East, Eagles made some big news. First, they re-signed cornerback James Bradberry, who Bradberry was cut by the New York Giants, same division. Eagles scooped him up for very little money. They said, come in and play, be a shutdown corner, prove that you can play in this league. He was great last year. He got the holding call in the Super Bowl, which really wasn't a holding, but it was. But he had that call against him, but he had a great season, and he was phenomenal. He turns a 1-year, $10 million deal into a 3-year, $38 million extension with 20 guaranteed. So James Bradbury stays in Philly. They have lost some players. They keep James Bradbury. They also added Rashad Penny in free agency at running back. Does sound like Miles Sanders, their longtime running back. They're not going to keep him, so he will likely be on a new roster next season. So you keep one corner, you add a running back who's gone through his fair share of injuries in Rashad Penny. But the big news of the day was that the Eagles cut the other corner on their team, Darius Big Play Slay, formerly of the Detroit Lions. Darius was awesome for the Eagles last year. But the Eagles are dealing with some salary cap implications. They kept Jason Kelce. You keep Bradbury. The A.J. Brown deal is kicking in his money. You got Jalen Hurts, which I imagine you'll be working on an extension for him maybe this offseason. You got to think of the Jalen Hurts deal, the Joe Burrow contract, the Justin Herbert. These deals could all be done. So you have decisions to make when it comes to money for other players on this team. They tried to rework the deal with Darius Slay. They could not come to terms. So they just outright cut him. And now he's off the team. Darius Slay is a free agent. Still a very productive player. Still a very good player. And he's no longer an Eagle. It's a weird situation to see a team that made it to a Super Bowl cut a very productive piece on their team. Certainly. Because Darius is not... Darius is not a Zeke Elliott where he's struggling, he can't play anymore, and you say, you know what, we need to upgrade this position. Whoever they get at corner to play opposite James Bradbury right away will not be better than Darius Slay. I think in all likelihood, Daniel Jeremiah, who works for the NFL Network today, was pontificating about the Eagles picking a corner in the draft. And I believe they got the 9th or 10th pick because they have the Saints draft pick in a trade for Chris Olave. So they could pick a corner early in the draft. He named a few that he likes. So who knows? But Darius Slay being available, we saw Jalen Ramsey pair with Xavier Howard. We've seen Stephon Gilmore pair with Trayvon Diggs. I look around. The Giants could certainly use a corner. The Giants' defense needs upgrades. Can they afford Darius Slay? It's another question. They got Darren Waller. They've signed Daniel Jones. They franchise tag Saquon Barkley. They could use Darius Slay. I think Darius will want to go to a winning environment. I think the Bills will kick tires on Darius Slay. They had 2 young corners last year. I think they could upgrade that position, certainly, if you can make the money work. This just came to me, but Darius Slay opposite Sauce Gardner, boy, would that be fun. You got to wait for that Aaron Rodgers trade to be done, and maybe he'll be willing to sit and wait if he gets the right deal. But you could put Sauce with Darius Slay. That's a lethal combination. 2 great corners. So I think he's going to have options. This is not going to be where only 1 or 2 teams are interested in him. I think multiple teams are going to inquire and see what it would take for Darius Slay to put their jersey on. But an active and interesting day for the Philadelphia Eagles nonetheless. Carolina Panthers today. Few additions for them. Carolina signed a quarterback. They signed the Red Rifle, Andy Dalton, to a 2-year, $17 million deal. Carolina currently owns the number 1 pick in the draft. Who that quarterback will be, we don't know. But they have their backup. They have a veteran to sit behind him or potentially be their starting quarterback next season. And the reason I say that, if Carolina views Anthony Richardson as the quarterback they want, maybe he's not ready to start, you go with Andy Dalton. He started for New Orleans last year. He's not the worst guy to have as a starting quarterback. If you do take Bryce Young, then you have Andy Dalton as the veteran backup quarterback behind him. So I don't mind this deal. You look around at backup quarterbacks, you have Chase Daniel out there, and you saw Sam Darnold go to the San Francisco 49ers. Dalton's better than both of those guys. Jameis Winston went back to New Orleans. Andy Dalton, Jameis Winston, pretty similar at this point in their respective careers. So Carolina adds Andy Dalton. They also added Hayden Hurst. They signed him to a 3-year deal. Hayden's bounced around. Was in Baltimore, then went to Atlanta. Then was in Cincinnati for a season. Now he's in Carolina, working with a young quarterback. He played in Atlanta and he worked with younger quarterbacks there, and it worked. He had really good year. I think Joe Burrow loved him in Cincinnati. I think this is a tough loss for Cincinnati because they lost Uzama last offseason. He went to the Jets. Now they're losing Hayden Hurst. So I think for Cincinnati, there must have been either we can't afford him because we got to sign Joe, likely to an extension this offseason. I think they want to re-sign T. Higgins, give him a big contract. So they have that money that they have to get off their books. They've lost Jesse Bates. They lost Von Bell. So they're losing a lot of players off their roster, Cincinnati, certainly. They did make back-to-back AFC championships, but they're losing players. But they must look at it and say, we got to sign those guys. It's a deep tight end draft, which they're right about. So we should be able to find a good tight end in the draft that we'll have under contract for many years, where Hayden Hurst, he might get worse as the seasons go on. But I like it for Carolina because you're a team that's not going to be good right away. You're going to have a young quarterback. They're building a good offensive line in front of them. You got a really good coaching staff. But yeah, I'm pulling it up. You have Dalton Kincaid, who I love out of Utah. You have Michael Mayer out of Notre Dame, who's been on the top of many experts' boards for a long time. Darnell Washington, who's 6'7", 250, out of the University of Georgia. Sam Laporte out of Iowa. Zach Kuntz out of Old Dominion. I think you got 3 or 4 guys there that will be really good NFL tight ends. Let's see here. Will Mallory. Schoonmaker out of Michigan. He's good. Payne Durham out of Purdue. I like him too. Cameron Latu at Alabama. Davis Allen at Clemson. So there's a lot of good tight ends in this draft. Not a great receiver draft, but a lot of really interesting tight end prospects. I think Cincinnati will look to address that in the draft come April. But a good day for Carolina, I think, because you addressed a few things, and they already did a lot of work when it comes to coaching staff and offensive line. Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Tampa Bay Buccaneers had an interesting day. They're obviously reeling. Tom Brady is gone. He retired, so he's out of Tampa. That era is over. Mike Evans is still on the team. Chris Godwin is still on the team. They cut their longtime left tackle, Donovan Smith, so he's gone. You're trying to clear up some money. You fired your coach. You brought in you fired your offensive coordinator, Byron Leftwich. You have a new OC. So it's a new era in Tampa, but you still have a decent team. So today they went out and signed Baker Mayfield to a 1-year, $8.5 million contract. So this is Baker's 4th different NFL team. Went from Cleveland to Carolina to LA, now to Tampa Bay. He will battle with Kyle Trask for the starting quarterback job to start the season. But to me, he is now the head and shoulders favorite. He's played in the league before, and obviously he's had spurts of success, but he gets another opportunity here. But Baker gets to play with Mike Evans. He gets to play with Godwin. He gets to play with some skill, with some talent. It's not as good as it once was, but Mike Evans can still play the position. You still have some players that you like. And they also brought back Levante David, one of the best players in team history, truly. 1 year, $7 million. David's has only played for Tampa Bay. He's back. Devin White is still on the team. Shaq Barrett is still on that defense. And in the NFC South, I think Tampa will be competitive just because of the division. We just talked about Carolina. Might be Bryce Young starting next year. Could be CJ Stroud. Could be Andy Dalton. We don't know. I need to see what they do in the draft. I like some of their moves, but their skill position players are still subpar. And they trade away DJ Moore to get that first overall pick, which still hurts. New Orleans. Derek Carr is your new quarterback. But you lost Marcus Davenport on your defense to Minnesota. You lost Omenu. He went to where did he go? Baltimore. Two starters. You lost another starter, another defensive starter. Ellerby is gone. So you're losing players left, right, and center because you're over the cap and their GM hasn't known what he's doing forever. So Derek Carr comes in. You restructure Michael Thomas's contract. He's coming back for a 1-year deal, but he's never healthy. He never plays. So who the hell knows there? Alvin Kamara is regressing. He's like any running back. He's taken a ton of hits in his career. Not as good as he used to be. So I don't expect New Orleans to be some juggernaut. And then you have Atlanta with Desmond Ridder, who is he going to be good? I don't know. You have the Green Lizard behind him at quarterback. CJ McCaffrey's in there. You'll have Deontay Foreman, who I do like a lot. But truly, Tampa could compete for the division title this year and win it again with Baker Mayfield as your starting quarterback. I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility, as I'm thinking about it here on the fly, that if Carolina picks the right quarterback, that they make the playoffs and potentially win the division with a rookie. If Bryce Young goes in there, I forgot about Deontay Foreman, who I love at running back. You still have Chuba Hubbard, who is no slouch. Receivers are tough. I will openly admit that. They're not great. I'm going to pull up their depth chart right now. But you can improve that. You're in the draft. You can work to find great players. You got a good coaching staff. But I love the Panthers last year. I picked them to make the playoffs. They let me down. Baker let me down. Now he's in Tampa. So maybe I shouldn't bet on Tampa. Probably won't. But even with Andy Dalton, I think this team will be competitive. Andy Dalton was competitive with New Orleans the entire season. And he has his ups and downs, of course, because he's Andy Dalton, the Red Rifle. But as I pull up, you have Andy Dalton, Matt Corral, they took in the third round last year, and Jacob Eason. Chuba Hubbard and Deontay Foreman at running back. Terrace Marshall Jr., good receiver out of LSU. Didn't get enough snaps. Last year, he'll get more. Laviska Shenault Jr., not an every down receiver. He's more of a gadget guy, but he can have his moments. Hayden Hurst, Ian Thomas, Tommy Tremp, but they got a good tight end room. Good offensive line with Brady Christensen, Bradley Bozeman, Austin Corbett, Taylor Moton. Still have Brian Burns on that defense. You didn't trade him. He was all-pro-like. Derek Brown, who's a stud. Shaq Thompson, who they brought back. Von Bell, who they added in free agency. J.C. Horn, who will be returning off injury. So this team isn't loaded with talent, but no team in this division is. Tampa's got the best receivers, but they're older receivers, and you have Baker Mayfield, who's an inconsistent passer and everything that comes along with him. Ego and pomp and circumstance. With Carolina, with Frank Reich and that coaching staff, I think they'll be pretty stable. Atlanta, I don't know. Can Desmond Ridder outplay Bryce Young? Well, Bryce Young was a better college player than Desmond Ridder was. Desmond Ridder started a few games in the NFL. He'll have the upper hand because he knows what he's walking into, but it doesn't mean he'll have a better situation. You know, that receiver one he could have had is now in Jacksonville, coming off suspension for gambling. Julio Jones isn't in Atlanta anymore. Your running backs aren't as deep for sure. This division's going to be fascinating because it's just there's no front runner, There's no team with a set quarterback that you feel awesome about. They have Drake London, who I do like, but he was injured. Kyle Pitts, who they're still waiting to wake up. They need to use him. We got Algier, Cordell Patterson, and Caleb Huntley. All kinds of running backs. Kyle Pitts, Matthews, Chris Lindstrom, who they give the big deal to, is good. Their defense is not even close to being as good as the Carolina Panthers. So it's not out of the realm of possibility with Carolina making the moves that they are that they could be a playoff team next year. Because the NFC, NFC South, and not the AFC South anymore because you have Jacksonville, but the NFC South is the new wide open division. Because who knows who's going to wake up and win it. NFC North, too. I have no clue. Is Kenny Pickett going to be good in his second season in Pittsburgh? You know they'll be competitive because it's Pittsburgh and you have Mike Tomlin as your head coach. You can't kill him. He's going to finish above 500. It's just the way he does business. Can douchebag in Cleveland play better? Deshaun Watson. Hope not, because I don't like the guy. But he's got a decent setup around him. Nick Chubb is still the running back. He's still a great player. Donovan Peoples-Jones. You still got Amari Cooper, who played well last year in Cleveland. So, Baltimore, is Lamar Jackson going to play? Is he going to be a Raven? Is he going to sit out the season? A lot to be decided there. Cincinnati, they're losing players. I don't think it's a bigger deal than what we'll think about. We'll get to the start of next year, and we'll look and say, well, Cincinnati lost a lot of players. Von Bell, starting corner. Jesse Bates, starting safety. Hayden Hurst, starting tight end. Possibly T. Higgins. Can't come to terms on a long-term contract. You know what you have to do with these guys? Trade them. That might be what happens with old T. Higgins. So, lots to be decided here. But I don't mind the moves for Tampa Bay. I don't think they plan to be that great next year. And Baker Mayfield, it's a one-year pact. If you're a bad team, you pick high in the draft, you get Caleb Williams, or you get Drake, Lady May. So, win-win there. Colts. Indianapolis cut Matt Ryan. This to be expected. The Colts have the fourth pick in the draft. They'll be taking a young quarterback in all likelihood. They'll be moved. Matt Ryan's going. They might have a whole new quarterback room. But by the time next year gets, Sam Ehlinger still might be there. But you get your new head coach. They'll be taking a rookie. Just depending on who's available. I think quarterbacks are going 1-2. The Colts get the third guy on the board. Who do they take? They could fall into, Nick Foles is under contract for another year. Sam Ehlinger is still there. Jonathan Taylor. This team. Not loaded with talent. So they cut Matt Ryan, free up some space. They also had Samson Ebukam, 3-year, $27 million deal, formerly with the San Francisco 49ers. Good little edge rusher, formerly of the CFL. It's turned into a really solid NFL player. So he joins Indianapolis. I don't expect the Colts to be great next year. They're going through some growing pains. Houston is as well. But they make a few moves. Anything else here? Oh, yes, New England. The Patriots finally have shown that they have a pulse. They've done nothing in free agency. They traded Jonnu Smith to Atlanta, and they let Jacoby Myers sign with Vegas. But New England has made a move. They signed Juju Smith-Schuster, formerly of the Kansas City Chiefs, Super Bowl champion, to a 3-year, $33 million deal with $22 million guaranteed. Okay. Here is my concern. with this deal. If you recall, prior to Juju Smith-Schuster joining the Kansas City Chiefs, he was an afterthought and he was a nothing on the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, he was playing with Big Ben Roethlisberger, who couldn't throw 15 yards down the field, but at the same time, he wasn't exactly the best route runner in the world, and he wasn't given universal praise for the way he approached the position. It's all fair. But Juju Smith-Schuster gets 3 years, $33 million from the Patriots. Coming off a 1-year deal where he had to prove it, and now New England gives him security. This just screams to me, Juju took the most money to go to New England. No problem with that. But New England has done this by getting a Jonnu Smith from Baltimore where he had his great years. And getting Hunter Henry from the Los Angeles Chargers. And now Juju's on his third team and he had his best season with the best quarterback of all time. What is going to happen now with him and Mac Jones? And Juju's success, to me, will not be dependent on Mac Jones. It'll be dependent on Bill O'Brien. We remember the Patriots offense last year. It was offensively bad. It was atrocious to watch. It was not creative. It was the same play over and over again, and there was nothing about it that was not predictable. So, Bill O'Brien, who's been working at the University of Alabama the last number of years, has to come in back to the NFL and prove that he can run an offense. Because as we stand here right now, this Patriots offense still sucks. Still sucks. Juju, okay, nice pickup. You paid him too much money, too many years. Yeah, that's my initial read on it. Because he's a receiver past the age of 30. He's had a lot of wear and tear on that body, and he just had the best year of his career, not just based on winning a Super Bowl, how great he was in that Super Bowl. Is that going to translate? I doubt it. If it's going to work, Bill O'Brien, it's on you, my friend. It's on you to get plays that benefit Juju and benefit Mac Jones. Because I look at it and it smells to me that it's not going to be worth it. The juice is not going to be worth the squeeze because he's an older player that just doesn't have what he used to. A really good talent, was a great pick for Pittsburgh, was a productive receiver for a long time. But what can you do in this situation? It's a different situation. I don't know. But New England does something. They need DeAndre Hopkins and they need Odell. But I talked about Aaron Rodgers off the top of the show. New England's the worst team in the division. No debate. And New England should want to be bad, really. It's advantageous for New England to not be a good team this year. It's advantageous for Bill Belichick to go full Greg Popovich and tank on this season. And it wouldn't even be that hard to tank this year because your team's not that good. You're the fourth best team in a 14 division, and you play in the AFC. So, you'll be better to lose. Why? If you're New England, why not go get Caleb Williams or Drake May? Have pick 1 or 2 in the draft and get your quarterback of the future because it's Mac Jones' third year. Sometimes you just got to look in the mirror and be like, I don't think we're going to win a Super Bowl with Mac Jones. I don't think we're going to make the playoffs next year with Mac Jones. Let's send him to another team after we draft our quarterback. Get some compensation for the guy because teams around the league could use another quarterback, no doubt about it. But would I rather have Caleb Williams or Mac Jones for the next 10 years? Give me Caleb Williams. USC. Ever heard of him? That would be, and it's impossible. I get it because you can't tell players to tank. But you can build a team that stinks, and that's what Belichick's done, but he coaches so well in the defense, they find ways to win. Matthew Judon gets 20 sacks. And they get another player on the opposite edge who gets 15 and a half, and they make all their field goals. It's like the Patriots are like the Miami Heat. They're like Jimmy Butler, who makes 22 free throws a game, and they can't shoot a lick, but somehow they still make the playoffs, and they're in the mix of things, but they'll know they're never going to win a title. That's New England. They're still in the thick of it, but they're not a real threat to the Miami Heat, to the Pittsburgh Penguins, if you will, of the NHL. But they're not going to win anything. They won't come close to winning anything because they don't have enough talent to do it. But hey, you get Juju Smith-Schuster. You get people excited, I guess. I feel like that excitement is a little dialed down because the Jets got Aaron Rodgers. And the Dolphins got Jalen Ramsey. And the Bills brought back Jordan Poyer, which nobody expected. So who had the better week out of the four? Let's say New England had the splash that New England made was very subdued compared to the other three. Patriots are still the Patriots, the old cliche. Are they a real threat to anybody? No. There's another signing in the NFL with a quarterback. I'm going to save that for tomorrow because I find it interesting. I don't know why one team didn't go get him. I like this quarterback a lot as a stopgap. We'll keep that for tomorrow's show. You want to have that content all the time, right? So we'll save that for tomorrow. Now, let's pivot from the NFL and head to March Madness. As I stated off the top, 2 March Madness games tonight, 2 playing games. Texas Southern against Fairleigh Dickinson. And you got Arizona State playing Nevada. Whoever wins this evening will play Purdue. And the other game, the winner will be playing, you find it here on the big board, on my bracket, we'll play TCU on Friday. So both these winners will play on Friday. Some of the big games coming up. March 16th, that's tomorrow. Alabama starts tomorrow. You got Maryland, West Virginia, San Diego State, Charleston, Virginia, Furman. You got Duke, Oral Roberts tomorrow, Tennessee, Louisiana. You got Houston, Iowa, Penn State, Texas versus Colgate, Kansas, Howard, Arkansas, and Eric Musselman against the Fighting Illini, Boise State, Northwestern, UCLA, UNC Asheville, just to name a few. Now, I filled out a bracket. 90% of it's going to be wrong. I'm starting that off the top. No other person will admit that. I will, because it's the truth. Nobody knows what they're doing here. Jay Billis is the smartest guy in college basketball. He's going to get half of this wrong. He picked UConn to win the tournament, then he backed out, and I think he picked Texas or somebody. So it happens. But what I can tell you is I'm going to make a bet and who I believe is going to win the tournament. Now, do I expect that to hit? No. Where the money is made in March Madness, where you want to make some money is finding some higher seeds and betting on them. Finding upsets, finding a Cinderella that you like to go on a decent size run in this tournament. Well, let's start off with this. Alabama is the number one overall team in this tournament, and they deserve to be. They have the best player in the tournament in Brandon Miller. He has a current charge against him. He could possibly be going to court in the offseason. He's likely to go top 5 in the draft, maybe even as high as 2. Such a great shot maker, aggressive, great handle. I got Alabama going deep in this tournament. I got Alabama going very far. We'll get back to that in a bit. But I like them winning. I like them winning games. That's not a shocker. Where you make money. If you have a bracket in front of you and you're just following along with me, the South bracket is the top of it's Alabama. You have Maryland, West Virginia. Maryland's a good school. West Virginia doesn't really impress me. They haven't had a great year. Maryland is going to win that game. I think they'll win that game fairly easily. The next game is San Diego State, 27-6, against Charleston. Both of these schools play in conferences that don't get a whole lot of spotlight. San Diego State plays late at night. Charleston does not play in a Big 5 conference, Power 5 conference. But Charleston is 31-3, and they are a 12 seed. Ben Affleck grew up Charleston. Have you ever watched The Town? Good movie. Jeremy Renner. Charleston can shoot the basketball. They are going to win some games in this tournament. And I got Charleston winning tomorrow against San Diego State, a 12 beating a 5. It happens every year. They will win tomorrow. Charleston beats San Diego State. That's my first big upset to follow. I'm doing a parlay tomorrow. I'm going to create it for you right now. Charleston beats San Diego State. Same right below it on the South bracket. Number 4, Virginia against 13, Furman. Virginia is 25-7. Furman is 27-7. Basically similar records, except Virginia plays in the ACC. Virginia can't score a lick. They can't shoot. They defend incredible. They play a boring brand of basketball, and they can't shoot. Furman can shoot. Defense versus offense. Who has better shot makers? Furman does. I got Furman 13 beating 4 Virginia tomorrow. So repeat that. Charleston 12 beating a 5. Furman 13 beating a 4. Same bracket. They'll play against each other in the second round. First 2 upsets. I go down. No upset. I like Creighton beating NC State, Baylor winning. 7-10, Missouri, Utah State, Missouri. Yes, they played in the SEC all year long. One of the toughest conferences in college basketball, no doubt about it. But they're no good. They're not a good basketball team. They can't defend. The fact that they're a 7 is a bit staggering to me. They shouldn't be. Memphis is better than them, and they're an 8 seed. Get to them in a minute. But I got Utah State beating Missouri 10-7. Also happens every year. Utah State, this bracket's going to be a group of just complete anarchy. Utah State beats Mizzou, they move on. So that's a 10. This is all in the South Conference. If you're following me, print off a bracket, fill it out. Utah State 10 winning tomorrow, Furman a 13, and Charleston a 12, all winning tomorrow. Let's move down to the Purdue side of the bracket, which is let's see here. Yeah, let's move on to Purdue. Purdue is going to win. Below them, Memphis, who is a good team, against FAU, Florida Atlantic, the Owls. The Owls are 31-3. Memphis is coming off a huge victory over Houston, a number 1, winning the American Coast Conference. Tell you what, that win can be a kiss of death for you because you're so confident coming in. You feel great about yourself. You're an 8 seed, and it's gonna. Another upset. FAU, the 9 will beat the 8. Not a huge upset, still an upset. You'll still get plus money on FAU winning. FAU beats Memphis. An upset tomorrow. Duke, they're going to win. Good team, Duke, quietly. Duke will get by Oral Roberts. I wanted to pick Louisiana. I can't because they stink. Kentucky, Providence. Kentucky up and down year, playing some decent basketball coming into the tournament. John Calipari was on the hot seat. Now he's not in the hot seat. Providence Friars, known for being a hockey school. They've been very good in the Big East for a number of years. Same records. Providence over Kentucky. 11 beats a 6. Providence. Kansas State I like. Michigan State, Marquette. So that for this side of the bracket, Charleston upset. Furman upset. Utah State upset. FAU slight upset, and I got Providence and 11 winning. So a lot of big movement there. Opposite side of the bracket. Houston, 1 versus 16, of course. I got Iowa winning, so that's a favorite. I wanted to pick Drake against the University of Miami, but I'm not going to. But it's not a bad bet to make, put it that way. It's not a bad bet to make to pick Drake over the Miami's got some injuries, just saying. Indiana, I like Indiana. Iowa State, they'll beat Pitt. I like Xavier as well. We get down the board. Texas A&M, 7, playing number 10, Penn State. Penn State is playing some great basketball coming into this tournament, but they lost the Big Ten title game. Texas A&M lost the SEC title game. So both teams are coming off a bitter loss to rivals Alabama and Purdue. Tell ya, Penn State can shoot. They guard. There's not much I don't like about this team. And they got confidence and they believe in themselves. A&M is talking about how they should have been a higher seed. They're pissed off, this, that, and the other. And yeah, they probably should have been, to be fair. But they'll be bitching. They'll be thinking about their next game. Because you know what? If Texas A&M wins this game, they'll play Texas in the second round, which would just give a hard-on to everybody in Texas. Texas A&M versus Texas. Oh, we can't wait for this. No. Penn State. Penn State beats A&M, ruins that. Texas wins, however. Kansas, Arkansas. I like St. Mary's, UConn, TCU. Gonzaga. The only other big upset in round 1, I got Boise State, a 10, beating Northwestern, a 7. Northwestern's similar to Virginia. They can't score. They don't score the basketball that well. Boise State, quietly, 24-9 this season. Better record than Northwestern, actually. And again, I know Northwestern played in the Big Ten, a much tougher conference. But I like Boise State to beat Northwestern and move on. UCLA wins. Moving through the tournament, I got Alabama and Charleston meeting in the Sweet 16. I like Alabama winning that game. Baylor, Arizona. Arizona, 2 seed wins there. I got Kansas State, a 3, getting all the way to a Sweet 16. I also have Duke getting to a Sweet 16, beating Purdue. So Duke beats Purdue. Duke's in this tournament, they're a 5 seed. They get there. I got Duke making it back to a Final Four as a 5 seed. I have Alabama making it as a 1, however. I like Alabama a lot. Opposite bracket, I got Texas, a 2 seed, making it to the Final Four. And my winner pick, this team's flying under the radar. They're not making a whole lot of noise. They play out west. You don't think about them until you get to the tournament. They've lost some of their stars to the NBA the last number of years. And this year, they're not a 1 seed. They're not a 2 seed. They're a 3 seed. It's Gonzaga. Gonzaga is now a blue blood, but people have forgotten about them. And I believe Gonzaga is going to win this tournament. I think Gonzaga and Texas will meet in one of the semifinals, in one of the Final Four matchups, and Alabama and Duke will meet in the other. So I got Alabama beating Duke to get to the national championship game on April 3rd in Houston. And I got Gonzaga beating Texas, a 3 beating a 2, to get to the national championship game. Gonzaga ultimately gets by Alabama, squeaks one by, and they win the first national championship in school history. Drew Timme, who decided to come back despite definitely being picked in the NBA draft, he will be justified in that decision. He will win a national title at Gonzaga. Mark Few will get his first championship as a head coach. So that's where I see this going. But to me, the first 2 rounds are so fun because you're looking at upsets and you're looking at anarchy. And there's always something. I look at these games and I'm sure I'm going to miss some. Like I think that Creighton game, Creighton's a 6 against NC State, the 11. NC State's a good team. They could definitely win that game. That could be one I'm missing. I don't see any of the 1s or 2s losing in the first, maybe second round. If I'm looking at the second round here, Arizona, Utah State, I think Arizona is too good of a school to lose there. Marquette against potentially Michigan State, that potentially could be a tough matchup for them, but I think Marquette's a pretty good school. I don't see Purdue losing to Memphis or FAU too early in the tournament. Houston, Iowa is tough, but Caitlin Clark's not in the men's team, so not going to lose that game. Xavier, potentially Iowa State could be tricky for Xavier, who's a 3 seed. That could be a problem. Texas against Penn State, no. Kansas, Arkansas could be fun. Arkansas is not as good as they have been in previous years. So I think there will be anarchy. I think you're going to see some really entertaining basketball. You look ahead, you get Purdue against Duke. You could get Baylor against Arizona, which would be a ton of fun. Houston, Indiana. Indiana's always a fun team to watch and a tough out. Xavier against Texas. Kansas against UConn. The defending champions, Kansas. UConn, I think, is a tough team. Gonzaga against UCLA, potentially in the Sweet 16. So technically, it's kicked off with Texas A&M, Corpus Christi, and Pittsburgh booking a ticket last night. 2 more teams will book a ticket tonight with Texas Southern and Fairleigh Dickinson teeing off in the next couple minutes, followed by Arizona State and Nevada. And the real thing begins tomorrow afternoon. Games are from 1 o'clock until 1 p.m. in the afternoon to 11 p.m. at night. Just a full slate of games throughout the day. If I look ahead to tomorrow here, West Virginia and Maryland first up, then Furman and Virginia, Utah State, Missouri, Howard, Kansas, Alabama plays at 3:45, Charleston, San Diego State at 4, Princeton, Arizona, Duke's in prime time at 8 o'clock, Texas. So there's games throughout the entire day. Should be a ton of fun. The tournament's awesome. We'll all find players that we love. You know the Brandon Millers, the Zach Edey's at Purdue, and the Johnny Jusangs at playing for UCLA, Drew Timme at Gonzaga. But you'll watch players that get hot throughout this tournament that play great basketball and you'll go on a Cinderella run, and that you'll remember these teams. You remember Loyola Chicago. You remember St. Peter's last year, who made it to an Elite 8 as a 15 seed. So the tournament is meant for upsets. It's meant for craziness, and we'll see what transpires tomorrow. But those are just some of the seeds that I I don't think that I see winning, and also that you can make some money on because they're going to be an underdog when you gamble on them. When you gamble on Charleston, on Furman, and I don't think they're bad bets because I think they really can win. And I'm like I said, I'm sure I'm missing. I thought the Friars can beat Kentucky. USC might be a decent bet against Michigan State. That's a really tight game. USC's a 10, Michigan State's a 7, but again, the St. Mary's games against VCU. That's a scary one for St. Mary's. That could definitely that's a 7 versus that's a 5 versus 12. VCU just won their conference championship. St. Mary's lost in the final. They got drubbed by Gonzaga a little over a week ago. So VCU's riding high coming into the tournament, fresh off beating Dayton to get here. So we'll see what happens, but I'm really looking forward to tomorrow getting going. What else today? The NBA announced that Ja Morant had been suspended 8 games for basically a conduct policy. He served 6 games of it so far. He'll miss 2 more. He met with Adam Silver today. So they're starting the process of him getting back into the league, which is good. He went to a facility, so clearly he's making an effort to rectify it. I think this is just a young person who needs to grow up. He needs somebody in that team to really just guide him a little bit. So it's interesting for sure what happened there and how he responds to this, how he grows from this situation, because you got to hope that he can find some positives in this and rectifies that behavior, because it's just been so terrible for the league, for that team. And they sit second in the Western Conference, and as Seamus and I pointed out yesterday, it is completely wide open. Anybody can win it. So if you put together a good spurt of basketball, that team could represent the West in the NBA Finals. They got the team to do it. It's just if he can come back and play at an All-NBA level, they could be there, in 2.5 months. So hopefully he can find some growth, find some maturity, and focus into basketball and not the extracurricular activities that have gotten him into trouble and led his career astray. Tonight in the National Hockey League, you got Colorado playing Toronto. Interesting game. No Arturi Lehkonen, no Landeskog, no Luke Schenn yet for Toronto as he returned to the ice today coming off the birth of his child in Vancouver. Toronto will dress 7 defensemen again. That looks not been exactly awesome for the team. 7D's tough, especially when you have defense who aren't all that good defensively. I do think the Leafs are missing Luke Schenn. He'll likely play Friday. They announced Ilya Samsonov will play in net for the Maple Leafs, not Matt Murray. So I will keep my eyes on that game this evening for sure, because it's an interesting game. Colorado is coming off injuries. They got to win games down the stretch here to make sure that they remain in a playoff position and stay afloat. You also got Sabres Capitals tonight. Islanders lost last night in Los Angeles to my Kings, the most fun team to watch in the NHL, as I said yesterday. Kings win again. Vegas wins again. So the Pacific teams and Edmonton all won last night. So Edmonton leapfrogs Seattle for the third spot in the Pacific. Seattle is a point back with a game in hand. Nashville, however, is 4 points out of a playoff spot with 3 games in hand on the Winnipeg Jets. They played 65 games. They're on a heater. Toby Novak scoring every other game. You probably never heard of him. Sounds like an accountant. Winnipeg loses to Carolina last night. They played 68 games. They're struggling. Nashville is still in the mix. Calgary is still in the mix, but they played even amount of games. Calgary lose to Arizona last night. But Nashville's still in that mix. I can't believe they are. So there's that fun to watch. Colorado is playing this evening. Like I said, they have 2 games in hand on Minnesota, and they're 4 points back. So they potentially could catch Minnesota, but they also need to stay ahead of Winnipeg, who's only a point back. They got 3 games in hand as well on Winnipeg. But Colorado, Minnesota tonight has St. Louis. They're without Kirill Kaprizov. They're still playing good hockey. Marc-Andre Fleury gets the start in net. And as before I went off on that tangent, New York loses last night. They're on a back-to-back. They're in Anaheim this evening. They are 3 points up on Florida. Florida will have 3 games in hand after tonight. And Buffalo is 5 points back with 3 games in hand. New York has 12 games left after this evening. 12 games after tonight. It's a must. This is the easiest thing you ever say. It's a must win for the Islanders tonight in Anaheim. One of the worst teams in the NHL. One of the teams playing for Connor Bedard. You got to find a way to get the 2 points because you desperately need them. Because you caught a break last night with Pittsburgh losing to Montreal and that AHL team. But I think Pittsburgh's going to make the playoffs. Pittsburgh still has 2 games in hand on the Islanders, 3 after tonight. So Pittsburgh's got a back-to-back with the Rangers coming up Thursday and Saturday. So that's coming up later in the week. But what other could I say about the NHL here quickly? Leon Draisaitl became the second player on the season to get to 100 points. Connor McDavid is first in the NHL in scoring 129 points. Draisaitl is second with 144 goals, 56 assists. Kucherov is third in points with 96 on the season quietly. Big win for the Lightning last night. They beat New Jersey in New Jersey. They play them again tomorrow, back-to-back in the same location. Pasternak's fourth. He's got 89 points. He'll likely get to 100 this year. He's got 46 goals as well. There isn't much of a rocket race, really, because it's a McDavid. She's got 56. The closest is Pasternak with 46. So he's 10 up on Pasternak in the goal total. Draisaitl's got 44. Braden Point and Mikko Rantanen both have 43. Tage, my guy, has 42. Kaprizov, J-Rob, and Scheifele all have 39. So, but interesting stuff to track nonetheless. Tomorrow we'll react to everything going on. Tee up a few interesting games in NHL tomorrow night, including Bruins, Jets, Flames, Golden Knights, Lightning, Devils again, Pittsburgh and New York, March Madness, other NFL news because free agency carries on. Bobby Wagner still doesn't have a team. Odell Beckham Jr. still doesn't have a team. So other moves will happen despite Aaron Rodgers and that shoe dropping. We'll be back tomorrow to talk to all of you. Hope you all have a good rest of your evening. Enjoy the sports. Enjoy Survivor if you watch. Enjoy Ted Lasso. Season 3 dropped today. Haven't started it yet, but I plan to soon. So until then, have a great night. This is To The Point.